Hello friends, I'm Janet and I'm a high school student. Today I'm going to be showing you how I take handwritten notes on OneNote. Making digital handwritten notes have become extremely popular lately on YouTube, but they usually only showcase the iPad or apps such as Notability or Goodnotes. And as a laptop user, we don't have access to these. But no fear, because OneNote is actually really nice and easy to use, and it's quite nice to make handwritten notes on. So, shall we get started then? What materials you'll need. Because it's digital note-taking, you will need a device. I'm currently using the Surface Pro 6, but you can use any touchscreen laptop or tablet like the HP Envy, iPad, Samsung tablet, anything you want. The second thing you would want to get is a stylus. Here I'm using the Surface Pen, but there are a heap of alternatives that I can link in the description. As for a quick review on the Surface Pen, I think it's quite a nice stylus, but as a warning, it is quite expensive and it jitters quite a lot sometimes, which is not ideal. Of course, alternatively, you don't need to have a touchscreen laptop, and you can just have a drawing tablet instead. This way you don't need one. And it does get a while to get used to, but hey, it gets the job done. That's all we want, right? Now, let's get on to taking some notes. I find it really helpful to add a grid or some lines to guide your writing. Simply go onto the View tab to change your layout, color, whatever you desire. These are my favorite pens that I like to use. I like to write my notes in blue pen because my eyes get really tired of seeing black scribble all across the page. It makes it hard for me to revise when I'm looking back at my notes. Anyways, what colors do you guys like? Now let's get on to how I start taking notes. I always start my notes off by making a quick title with the chapter number included, and then setting up 2 columns. As you can see, I'm using the ruler tool to make a straight line. Then, it's the exciting part, it's time to make a concept header. Here are a couple ideas that you can try. Well, what kind of header do I like to use? I'm lazy, so I just choose the simplest one. Now onto the actual note-taking method. I use a variation of the Cornell note-taking method, so on the left-hand column, I write down a prompt, and on the other side, I write down the answer to that prompt. And I try to do this in the most concise way possible. If there is any extra information, I tend to include it in a lighter color. Here, I'm using a bright red, but sometimes I use that light green pen that I showed you before, or I don't know, it's really up to you. And you may be wondering, why do I use the Cornell method? Why not just the simple bullet point method? Before I did use the bullet point method, but I discovered that I tended to forget what I wrote really quickly once I did it because I was mindlessly copying it. I found that when I'm using the Cornell method, I find it much more engaging, for me at least, and I also use it because it just makes it easier to revise. The prompts act as good questions, so you can just simply cover up your answers and then run through the prompts yourself to see how much you know, and this will help you with active recall when you look at your notes later. And I also find that it helps creating my flashcards slightly faster. It's not a perfect system, but hey, it works for me, and maybe it'll work for you, so why not give it a try? Let's go on to helpful tools. During your digital note-taking process, you'll find the selection tool, add, remove space, and ink to shape feature very helpful. Using the selection tool, you can move, transform, and copy what you've already written. Make it your second best friend, because your first best friend should always be the undo button. The ink to shape tool is also really nice, but only when it works. It's best used in conjunction with the selection tool. I think the add and remove space feature deserves a special mention. It can be incredibly helpful when you want to add more details, although for large documents, it might lag a bit. Oops. Just stay patient and remember to watch where your stylus is going if it lags too much. Now, let's get on to printing. And often, this is the main reason why people are hesitant to use OneNote, because it's so hard to print, or at least it's really awkward to print. But don't worry, I've discovered that as long as you stick to a roughly rectangular shape, it's not too strange. There are a couple of things that you can do to make your printed notes a bit more consistent though. You can rule down a line down the edge of a page to make sure that you won't go outside the page that you've allocated for yourself. And if you want this to match up with your other notes, I think that if you use the zoom to 100, then you can keep it consistent if you just draw the line down where the page ends. I haven't tried this myself, but I'm assuming that it will work. And there you go, that's all I know about OneNote. I'm still a beginner at using it, I'm still learning all the different ways that I can make it better, but this is how I take notes so far, and it's working for me. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful, and I hope you have a great day. Stay productive!